When I was regularly facilitating children's grief groups and volunteering at grief and cancer camps, I had a recurring dream. In the dream, I was facilitating a grief group, much like the ones I led in Waking Life. The crucial difference is that the dream grief group was a grief group for the dead. My job in that dream was twofold: to witness the dead as they grieved the lives and loved ones they left behind, and to support the dead through this transition, to help them integrate into their new reality. These dreams were never scary. They were tender, loving. We even laughed together, just like we did in my grief groups for the living. Almost always, the deceased parents of the children I worked with in Waking Life showed up in my dream grief groups. I recognized them immediately when they walked in because their living children had shown me pictures of them at candlelight memorials and in popsicle stick photo frame activities. I'd heard so many stories about these deceased parents from their living children whose grief I witnessed in Waking Life. One teen described her late mother as feisty and smart. She was a brilliant scientist who always wore bright red lipstick. When that deceased mother came to my dream grief group, she appeared just as her daughter described her, red lipstick and all. My unconscious mind fabricated grief groups for the dead based entirely on stories shared by their living children, memories, quirks, inside jokes, and even the tough moments, the ones that emerged late at night at grief camp. My last conversation with her was an argument. It was so stupid. I was so angry at him for the drug use. What if he didn't know that I loved him? In my dream grief groups, the deceased parents and I fondly remembered their children together. Their parents were always so proud of them. These groups were intimate, personal, powerful. It was my mind's gentle way to witness my own witnessing, to make sense of the countless stories of loss I carried with me over my decade working with these children. Grief group facilitation taught me a lot about the power of witnessing, or as my friend Reb Irwin says, witnessing. With grief, there is no problem solving, no solution. Nothing can be done to change the situation. Witnessing and being with are the greatest gifts we can offer. The Shema, the most central statement in Jewish liturgy, is a proclamation of our witnessing. In the Torah, the last letters of the word Shema, which mean hear, and the word Echad, which means one, are written in larger script than the rest of the text. The letters are Ayin and Dalet. Together they spell witness. The Shema is a call to witness the oneness of the divine presence as it unfolds in the world. In other words, even God needs to feel seen. For a number of reasons, I stopped facilitating children's grief groups after I moved to Champaign-Urbana. The dreams stopped coming at regular intervals, and then they stopped entirely. I was focused on life in a different way, so I stopped dreaming about the dead. After October 7th, 2023, I was sure the dreams would return. I was grief counseling full-time, even when we didn't call it that. I facilitated groups. I witnessed the pain of countless students, friends, and colleagues, but the dreams didn't come. Until September 1st. Since that night when 6 hostages were murdered, those hostages and others who died on and after October 7th have been visiting me in dream grief groups. Like the parents of the children I used to work with, I know the faces and stories of the dead from the living people who loved them. I've met musicians, tattoo artist Shani Luke, and children who were murdered in their kibbutz bedrooms. I met Carmel Gad, who was a mindfulness meditation and yoga instructor. Naturally, in my dream grief group, she leads some gentle movement for everyone each time we meet. The murder of those 6 unlocked the part of my dream life that processes my grief and the grief of those I witness by helping the dead process theirs. Yom Kippur has a lot to teach us about death, grief, and witnessing. Jewish tradition considers Yom Kippur to be a dress rehearsal for our own deaths. We refrain from eating and drinking, washing and pleasure, and some people wear white, evoking the image of shrouds. I'll talk a little more about that tomorrow. Yom Kippur invites us to witness the grief of others as we experience our own grief at the Yizkor memorial service. There's also a Yom Kippur afternoon service that's not often included in Reform spaces, but its message is an important one for this year. It's called Eila Azkara, These I Remember, based on lines that we repeat throughout that service. Eila Azkara v'nafshi alai, eshpecha al korotenu hamarot, einai zoglot dima. These I remember, and nafshi, my soul, melts with sorrow. For the bitter course of our history, tears pour from my eyes. The service tells the story of generations of Jews who were murdered for being Jewish, from Rome to mines during the First Crusade to the Spanish Inquisition. These we remember, we say, again and again and again. None of us personally knew rabbinic greats like Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, but we remember them based on the stories of others. The Eila Azkara service offers a way for us to use ritual and memory to witness the dead and to create meaning for the living. Earlier this week, on the anniversary of the October 7th massacre, students and staff worked together to implement a student vision, a memorial museum. Far from a static walk-through museum with statistics and political analysis, the experience lifted up the stories of actual people, soldiers, people who lived and died in the kibbutzim, and people who witnessed the murder of their loved ones at the Nova Festival. First-person testimonials were the fabric of this experience. We felt the presence of those who died on the 7th through the powerful stories and memories of those who loved them. And each of us who walked through that museum was a witness to the stories, a witness to others walking beside us, a witness to our own grief we may have forgotten during an intense year of political argument and analysis. Eila Azkara, these we remember. Late at night on October 8th, when we cleaned up and put away the museum pieces, it felt like uncovering the mirrors in a home after Shiva. That night, more of the dead from October 7th and beyond attended my dream grief group than ever before. In my Erev Rosh Hashanah sermon just 10 days ago, I said that I didn't know what to say about October 7th, and it's still true. But that's because there's nothing we can say that will change what happened. It turns out that once again, it's not about saying something. Listening is greater than speaking. Presence is greater than power. Witnessing is sometimes the most precious gift we can offer. Surrounded by death, witnessing says, I am here. We are alive. We are together. You are not alone. In my dreams, no one, living or dead, is grieving alone. We are all witnessing each other, and we are comforted.